Today I'm going to be taking a look at the 1990s cult classic, Tremors. This American Western-themed monster horror comedy is the first in the franchise with 5 sequels, 1 prequel, and even a television series called Tremors, the series. Cause when you've got a good thing going, why stop? The movie opens somewhere in the Nevada desert with one of our main protagonists enjoying the view. This cowboy handyman known as Val is taking a picturesque morning pee off the side of a cliff. Val returns to his truck where his older friend Earl, aka Cowboy Handyman number 2, is sleeping. Val decides to wake up Earl by rocking the pickup truck and shouting, "What a joker." However, Earl's far from impressed. He goes on about the dangers of stampedes in a lecture that's so intense they both need a smoke break. We soon find the cowboys are not in the middle of the desert for a romantic excursion.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
But rather, they're working an odd job setting up barbed wire fences. Both discuss their disdain for being handyman, with Earl saying they should quit as Val finally manages to hit a nail. We next cut to the guys driving their pickup truck with some upbeat country music, signaling us that they finished their tedious job. On their way back to town, they run into Rhonda, a seismology student with a severe cocaine addiction. She informs the boys she's up here as part of a university project to study some peculiar vibrations in the region. Rhonda asks if they know of anyone doing any drilling or blasting in the area, as she's been getting some strange readings. The guys are no help, say goodbye to Rhonda, and drive away. Earl and Val arrive back at Perfection, where they park at the local convenience store. We're introduced to several of the town's residents, including Melvin, the town orphan, Walter, the store owner, and proud NRA members, Bert and Heather. It's important to note that Bert and Heather really like guns. Like, really like them. These two were preppers before prepping was cool. They're survivalists who believe Perfection offers them the best chance of making it through World War III, which they really want to happen. You may think Heather looks familiar. That's because she's famous country music singer Reba McEntire. Kind of weird choice for her first feature film, but to be honest, she nails the role. Val and Earl tell their friends they bumped into Rhonda. Speaking of Rhonda, she's being stalked by something in the desert. As she finishes up and makes her way to the truck, it closes in, nearly missing an opportunity to claim its first victim. Yeah, I totally wouldn't notice that either. Earl and Val are back on site doing yet another odd job, this time cleaning some garbage. They take a break sitting on some gross couches and drinking some toilet beers. After a little reflection on their lives, the guys get back to work, now using a septic pump to extract sewage. The poopy pump explodes, covering them both in excrement. This is the last straw for the guys, who decide to finally leave Perfection. Val and Earl pack their things and head off towards Bixby, the nearest town from Perfection. As they're driving away, a young mother named Nancy stops them, offering them a delivery job. She further adds on to the lucrative deal by promising lunches and free beer. Nancy's daughter Mindy can be seen jumping around on a pogo stick. Earl asks her how many jumps she's performed, which turns out to be 640. Awesome! Only 200,000 away from the world record. The guys are clearly tempted at Nancy's offer, but they decline and drive towards Bixby instead. As the cowboys drive to their new destination, they joke about how they successfully beat temptation and that nothing was going to stand their way. In the distance, they see a man perched on top of an electric tower. Val recognizes the guy as Edgar Deems, the local town drunk. Val and Earl decide to stop and say hi, with Val climbing up the tower to investigate. When he finally reaches Edgar, Val discovers that he's dead. The local town doctor comes out and determines that Edgar died from dehydration, meaning he must have been up there for at least 3 days and was too afraid to climb down. Weird. We next cut to Shepherd Fred, who notices his sheep acting a little out of character. He pauses digging for a moment before ignoring it and carrying on. The ground starts shaking until something reaches up and grabs a hold of his leg. Before Fred can do anything, he's sucked into the dirt below. Val and Earl continue on the way out of town when they notice something wrong at Fred's farm. When they approach, they see all Fred's sheep have been slaughtered and Fred is nowhere to be found. Exploring the farm, they find Fred's hat in the middle of the ground. Wonder what's under there.
Oh, jeez, what the hell's going on?
Val and Earl freak out and get back on the road, stopping by 2 construction workers and warning them that there's a serial killer on the loose. The construction workers ignore the warning, believing the 2 are merely pulling one of their usual pranks. They continue to drill until one strikes something with its jackhammer. A squeal is followed by blood emerging from the crack. At this point, it's obvious the guy hit a giant worm, but he's clueless and gets dragged to the side of the road. When the other worker goes to help, he gets crushed by a rock slide. Back at Walter's convenience store, Val and Earl warn everyone of serial killers on the loose. The guys find out the phone lines are dead and thus must travel to Bixby to get the cops. On their now 3rd attempt at leaving the town, they run into the rock slide that killed the 2 workers. They spot one of the construction workers' hats covered in blood and assume the serial killer struck again. In their panic to leave, the truck gets caught on something. Val puts the truck in a low gear, but it's as if something is clinging to the rear axle. Eventually, they break free and floor back to town. At the convenience store, the rest of town's population have congregated for local gossip. Surprised Val and Earl are back so soon, everyone comes outside where they notice a strange-looking slug creature under the truck.
Relax. It's dead.
Are you sure about that? Walter wants a creature for $5, but gets it for $15. Looks like I won't be eating his special soup for a couple months. Val ponders if there's more of these creatures out there, making the townspeople very uneasy. It's nighttime now, and we see the town doctor and his wife setting up camp. When the power goes out, the doctor goes over to investigate. When he gets to the spot of the generator, he finds it missing. Like, underground missing. The doctor starts pulling on the cord until he pulls up the severed end. The mystery compounds when he and his wife hear something shriek from the ground in front of them. As the wife begs the doctor to leave, something grabs him from underneath. His wife struggles to help, but is of no use. The doctor is sucked into the ground, and his wife is greeted by more of the ugly slugs. She sprints back to her car where the creatures continue to attack. The car's then pulled into the ground, and the fate of the doctor's wife is left up to our imagination. Back to the convenience store, where Cindy's taking her Christmas photos, Melvin's stealing from the cash register, and Bert is working out his plan of attack. At this point, everyone should shut the fuck up and listen to Bert. He probably has a plan specifically designed for such a scenario. Given the phone lines are down, someone suggests using Walter's saddle horses to get to Bixby and inform the police. The townspeople deduce Earl and Val are the best horse riders and thus must go to find help. As they prepare to leave, Heather suggests they carry something with a little more firepower.
Y'all gonna have to take something packs more of a punch than that 30-30. Won't you take one of our Browning autos? Better than that, won't you just take my Model 70? It's 375 H&H mag.
I'm kind of aroused. As the guys ride through the desert, they come across a doctor's camp from the night before. Hearing some music, they look around the campsite, eventually stumbling upon the doctor's station wagon buried deep in the ground. Jumping back on their horses, they continue to ride. That is, until their horses start freaking out, throwing Earl and Val off their backs. The worm creature grabs one of the horses and tries to swallow it. After Val pisses it off with some ineffective rifle work, we finally get our first look at the beast. The guys flee from the giant worm as it chases them from underneath. They run for the aqueduct, hoping the concrete wall will slow its progress. When the worm hits the barrier and dies on impact, they celebrate their victory with some dialogue only Kevin Bacon can pull off.
Fuck you!
Ron appears out of the blue, casually asking what's up. This woman must have horrible hearing. That's the only explanation I have for not hearing the screams, gunshots, earthworm shrieks, or Kevin's triumphant victory cry. The trio decide to analyze the giant worm, learning how it moves, how it navigates, and what its ass looks like. Rhonda pulls out her seismology readings and determines there are at least 3 more worms. Working their way back to Rhonda's truck, they...
What?
Damn prairie dog, Burl.
They see one of her graph machines going crazy, indicating a worm is right next to them. Nowhere near the truck, they decide to climb onto a cluster of boulders. While safe, they're also stuck. That's when Rhonda finds some conveniently placed poles. Nice. The trio pull out their way from boulder to boulder, eventually making it to her truck. Back at Walter's convenience store, everyone is trying to figure out some important stuff, like what to name them. The group goes through several options, eventually arriving at one that fits.
That's what I like. Graboid. That's it, graboid.
Rhonda realizes graboids can only move through soil. Therefore, their best way for the townspeople to escape is trekking up the rocky trail towards Bixby. The granite of the trail should theoretically hold off the worms. While they're working through the finer details of the escape plan, single mother Nancy notices she can't find Mindy.
Mindy?
At the same time, they hear a cry from Melvin the orphan. Seriously, does this kid have a dad? All the townspeople rush outside to see Melvin on top of a pole, terrified. Suddenly, a big worm, graboid, launches up from under the ground. Everyone runs to the store except Nancy, Mindy, and Melvin. They try to stay quiet so the graboid doesn't hear them, but little Mindy's jamming out on her pogo stick and can't hear their cries to run. The graboid hears Mindy and heads her way. A heroic Val sprints to Mindy and grabs her just in time. The graboid's really hungry now and heads towards Rhonda, who got tied up in some barbed wire. As Rhonda's getting pulled into the graboids, Val yells at her to take off her pants. Way to play hard to get, Rhonda. They both flew back to the market where they contemplate next steps. While everyone's doing their best to stay quiet inside the store, the freezer comes to life and starts buzzing. Val, Earl, and Walter run over frantically to turn it off, but it's too late. The wooden floors burst open, and a graboid grabs Walter, sucking him into the floor. Bye, Walter. The group splits up, with some climbing onto the store's roof while Rhonda makes it onto a nearby water tower. We cut to Bert and Heather, who have finished up their latest perimeter sweep. They radio the others, and Val tells them to get on the roof. As Bert and Heather gather their weapons from their basement, they hear a growling on the other side of the wall. Moments later, a graboid smashes through the cement blocks of their rec room. Unfortunately for the graboid, the basement is where Bert and Heather keep all their weaponry. It basically crashed through the wall of a shooting range, making itself the target of every weapon in their arsenal. They go to work using shotguns, Uzis, and a flare gun. Finally, Bert moves on to the elephant gun Heather gifted him on their 10th year anniversary. This large caliber weapon does the trick, and they finally put the worm down.
Broke into the wrong damn rec room, didn't you, you bastard?
They radio their success to the rest of the party, and everyone celebrates.
Bert got one, he killed one! Way to go, dude! Hooray!
Yes!
Bert and Heather get onto the roof and communicate with Val via the radio about what to do next. Earl figures the best way for everyone to reach the mountains is on the town's giant bulldozer, since it's probably too heavy to overturn. Earl and Val reason they can attach a nearby semi-trailer, giving them the space they need to haul everyone out of town. After some rock, paper, scissors, it's decided Val will be the one running for the heavy piece of machinery. Val sprints to the bulldozer, attaches it to the trailer, and then brings it back to the group. With everyone on board, they head towards Bert and Heather, who are of course making pipe bombs. Picking up the two vigilantes, the group continues their escape out of the valley at a breakneck speed of 5 miles per hour. However, they don't make it far. Their bulldozer falls in a sinkhole, which Bert suggests the graboid said is a trap. Tentacles spring up from the ground trying to grab anyone they can. Bert launches a stick of dynamite to scare away the beasts, and everyone runs to the rock for safety. Once the group makes it to the nearby boulder, they come up with a plan to trick the monsters into swallowing a homemade pipe bomb. The plan works, and everyone gets covered in worm guts. There's only one left. When they try to use the same tactic on the last graboid, it discovers their plan and spits the bomb back onto the rock, forcing Val, Earl, and Rhonda off onto the loose ground. When they try to run back, the graboid emerges from the ground, causing them to freeze. If they move, the graboid will detect them. If they stay there, they'll eventually die from dehydration. Suddenly, Val takes off running, because
I got a goddamn plan!
Val throws the bomb behind the graboid, forcing it to chase him even faster as he heads for the cliff. Stopping just short of the ledge, he jumps out of the way as the graboid shoots out of the cliff face and into the valley below. Everyone celebrates in victory, knowing they've defeated the last monster. Back in perfection, Earl and Val discuss their future. Tying off the romantic subplot I spent no time covering, Val kisses Rhonda and the camera pans into the desert. Credits roll and we're treated to none other than Reba McEntire. Why was she not in more movies?
Don't you know it means the world to me? All the love and the support.
And that's where the summary comes to an end. If you like these types of videos, leave a like and hit the subscribe button. Until next time, this is Strange Thoughts signing off.